All right, we are live. We are live. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We have a lot to talk about today. Our topic: lead your team to overcome burnout and relieve stress. We have a lot to talk about. I'm so glad you joined. I'm Michelle Beauchamp, owner of the Champ Group, where I partner with companies and individuals to help them and their teams develop in leadership and diversity, equity, and inclusion. And sometimes we talk about business development as well. And so one of the things I love doing is I love doing these LinkedIn live events because it allows me the opportunity to share insights with other people to help you grow your business and sustain and relieve stress. So I want to introduce you to my guest today. You're blessed to be able to have them today. Connie Francini and Gloria Crockett. So I'm going to let them share a little bit about what they do, and then we're going to get started. So Connie, help our audience understand. Oh, and what I want to do too is tell our audience, go ahead and put in there in the comments that you're here, what your name is, and as we go through the program, make sure you put comments and ask questions, and we'll make sure to acknowledge them and get to them. So Connie, tell us, what do you do, Connie?
Thank you so much for having me, Michelle. It's really great. This is one of my favorite topics. In my consulting firm, we work with professional services businesses who are moving through a really big growth phase and are feeling some stress and some overwhelm around maintaining their quality and reputation through that growth phase. So I come in and help them operationally behind the scenes and within the organization to help keep pace with that great growth and ensure that the business is still growing in a way where they can feel excited and proud about the work that they're doing.
I love that. From overwhelmed to excited and proud. That's a good transformation. That's awesome. Connie, thank you so much for saying yes today. And Gloria. So also we're so excited to have you. So Gloria Crockett, help our audience understand, what is it that you do, Gloria?
Okay, I will, Michelle. Thank you so very much for having me. I actually have been a nonprofit for 27 years and have run offices on several large organizations. And right now, I'm excited to be the president and CEO of Make-A-Wish Orange County and the Inland Empire. And we help grant wishes to kids between the ages of 2.5 and 18 that are battling a critical illness. And we've all been going through a lot of different things with the pandemic as we emerge. And Connie, I think something that you keyed in on it with the growth phase, I think we're all in a growth phase all over again after coming out of the pandemic.
Oh, amen to that. And Make-A-Wish. Who cannot love the Make-A-Wish, right? And so thank you for all that you do with that, Gloria. That's an amazing organization. So I'm so excited that we're here to talk about that. And I see we have some guests coming in, so that's exciting. We have Tanya Hewitt here, and we have Sarah Stevens. Shout out to you all. So thank you. We thank you so much. And we have somebody from Canada. Whoop whoop. Tanya's from Canada. How exciting is that? That's exciting. So here's what I want to do. I want to just say some facts here to set this all in context about why is there so much burnout and why are we feeling so much stress. Let's start with feedback. We get a lot of information from a lot of different research companies, McKinsey, Gallup, Harvard Business Review. Here's the consensus. People are not getting feedback. They don't know if they're doing a good job or if they're doing a bad job. If they're doing a good job, they want a pat on the back that says, you know what? Here's what you did that was really good about that. And if they're not doing a good job, they want to be able to understand, how can I improve? What did I not do well? And how can I improve? So one is that people are not getting enough feedback. Mm-hmm. Another is collaboration is going down. I saw recently that only 32% of people are engaging at work. Now, here's what we know. That was already difficult when we were all together in one place. Now, with hybrid and remote environments, it's even more challenging. So collaboration is down. People are not feeling included. They're not feeling like they belong. And there's a lack of guidance on skill development. If I do a really good job, what's my next step? What's the next level? How do I set myself up to do that? And we're going to talk about some of these things, but these are some points of frustration and stress levels to put this all in context. Not to mention psychological safety. If I raise my hand and say that I don't understand, or if I raise my hand and say, you know what, I have a different opinion, am I going to get repercussions for saying that? Or is it safe for me to say what I really think and ask questions if I don't understand? Not to mention quiet quitters. I saw recently 50% of people in the workforce are quiet quitters. So it doesn't mean they're not doing their job, but they're not doing the extra, the what I call the and then some. So that causes stress, doesn't it? Then we all know about the great resignation. 50% of people are looking for jobs, not to mention the external things going on, the economy, political climate, the what's going to happen in the fall when COVID comes back, right? So there is so much. So all that in context. Oh, here's what Tanya said. Feedback so critical. Yes, for organization. Thank you, Tanya. Thank you, Tanya. Thank you for that. Yes, thank you. We appreciate that. And so, Connie, we have a pop quiz. and the pop quiz comes from you, and we want our audience to chime in. And we love it when you all give comments. So, Connie, burnout is a mental issue. Is that true or false? You are an expert in this. We want people to, let's just see if people does anybody think, what is it, true or is it false that burnout is a mental issue? Let's see if we have anybody that gave us an answer on that yet. I don't, but I see some people still joining on. Lisa Panka just came on. So Connie, can you go ahead and help us understand, is burnout a mental issue or no?
I think a key addition to that question might be, is it solely a mental health issue? And that might help for the folks out there in the audience. And the work that I do and the research that I've done is really broader and beyond that, because the solutions, right, the way to prevent it or the way to move past it, ultimately, although they address issues of mental health, right, and things like getting sleep and getting exercise and getting your hobbies, into your life and getting time for yourself, that's important. But there are other aspects to it as well. And so I think that's just a really important distinction for us to recognize, whether we are just an individual contributor within an organization or whether we have leadership responsibilities for a team or an organization, that it really is bigger and broader than that, and recognizing that there are more aspects to think about.
And here's what Sarah says. Sarah says, I'd say part of it has to do with personal mental health, but it also can be situational, right?
Yep.
Exactly. Totally, 100%. And Yasmin said, feels like it to me. So, wow, we've got some good audience participation. So I love it. I love that audience participation. So I have up here on the screen now 3 burnout prevention levels. And I want us to talk about this. And Connie, I'm going to start with you. And then Gloria, I want you to continue, because here's the thing. Gloria, as you run the organizations within Make-A-Wish, you have the wonderful task of being a leader and making sure that you're doing these things, right? And Connie and I, as consultants, we suggest things, we recommend things, and you are the one that implements them. So I'd love to hear from both of you on this. But Connie, help us understand, what would you say the 3 burnout prevention levels are? And we like the word prevention, right? Because that's what we're trying to do. What would you say to that?
Yeah. So if we start with kind of what we talked about in the pop quiz question, obviously there are some really important things that as an individual may be important steps to preventing burnout. So things like, getting sleep, things like taking time for yourself, making sure that you have time away from your desk, your computer, that you have breaks during the day. Working 12 hours a day, that's not healthy, right? And so there are some at the individual level, there are some changes that can be made that can help to prevent burnout, right? So if you think of that as the small circle in the middle, then imagine one circle larger outside of that. So that next level out would be between an individual and their manager, right? So if I'm doing what I can to kind of keep my own individual sort of health and workflow and workload at bay, but if I need something, right, in order to do my job successfully, if there's a barrier for me to do my job successfully, if there's a conflict that's getting in the way, there has to be an effective relationship happening between an individual and a manager, because those aspects are going to help play a role in preventing burnout as well. Then if you imagine the third largest circle out, that would be for the organization. So as an organization, do we have a strong sense of purpose? People are becoming so much more purpose-driven today. That can't really be solved at the individual, even at the manager level. That's an organization-wide level. As an organization, do we have a system for giving feedback
right,
to employees and for sharing feedback with managers? to say. I think it goes both ways, right? So there's also that third circle out, that largest level at the organization level. And all three of those are important. Just one individually probably isn't going to be the complete solution, especially for those of us who, if we're in a management role for a team or for an organization, we really need to think across all three levels.
No kidding. And thank you for that, Connie. And here I'm going to show, this comes from Tanya. Burnout, and then she gives us a source, is not a function of time, it's a function of task. If we begin working on our genius, burnout tends to plummet. Wow, right? So that's a good one. And then Terry said prevention is key. So again, really good feedback that we're having. And I want to put this back here. Really good feedback that we're having. Gloria, I want to ask you this. How do you handle giving feedback to your team? And how about the managers? Because the truth of the matter is that managers are also burnt out, right? So they're burnt out too, and their people are burnt out. So help us understand, as a person who does this on a daily basis, Gloria, how do you handle these burnout levels with the leaders, the individuals? How do you all handle that?
Well, I think first and foremost, everyone is an individual. And so everyone's going to handle things differently. And I think that there's not one approach for a single individual. And you have to recognize that. And one of the keys is it's around communication. So what kind of communication do you establish early on in the relationship? And how do you continue to nurture that? So there's a level of trust. For me, in particular, I like to ask my, direct reports or my managers, how do you want your feedback? What is the best way for me to communicate with you? It's more about me making the adjustment for them. And if we don't have something that's, clearly communicated, then we say, well, how could we have done that better? Something that we've done as an organization that is all around engagement and trust and culture is doing the Gallup Q12. And I think what's key about that particular process is it's simple. It keeps things simple, and it offers a communication style with the staff team that maybe you didn't think about. It's sometimes what are the things that you're missing at work? And it's as simple as just asking that question, but we forget to ask that question sometimes when we're moving so quickly. But once they have that particular item, equipment, it helps them with, making their job easier. And they're like, wow, if I only had that 6 months earlier, I wouldn't have had as much stress, but we didn't know that. And so it's that communication, I think, is very, very key.
So it sounds like you're really providing some tools for people to help them understand, how your leaders help them understand what they can do. The Gallup Q12 might not be something people are familiar with. So can you just elaborate a little bit on that?
Yes. So the Gallup Q12 is basically 12 questions that you ask your team to fill out anonymously. You have your whole staff team do it, and then you have your leadership team. So you can see from both levels, for me, how much my leadership team is understanding, and then all of the team. And, it asks questions like, do you have all the equipment that you need at work to do your job effectively? The one that got me when we first did this, and we do this annually, is, do you have a best friend at work? And, it took me a minute to say, best friend, what exactly is that? Because we have it internal and external, and it kind of confused me. But what it's about is, do you have someone you can confide in at work, that you can have a real conversation? You can say, hey, I don't understand that. That same person is the person that says, oh my gosh, you really knocked it out the park on that particular project that you did. Or they might even say to you, you know what, your response was a little bit rough when you were in that meeting. Maybe you should lighten up a little bit. And so it's someone you can really rely on. And so look for your best friend at work to kind of help you manage through your day.
Yeah, that's a good tip. I'm going to take this to the next question, and I want to bring that back to this question, because one of the things that is true, we cannot deny it, is that the pandemic impact is real. So when you talk about things like having a best friend at work, How have you been able to implement that, and what can people do to have this happen in a hybrid environment or in a remote environment? Because we know the engagement's down, and I love that if engagement's down and you can have somebody you trust and say, hey, you know what, you came across a little harsh at that meeting, or you knocked it out of the park. Both of those are good things, and we already talked about how people aren't getting enough feedback. So in this environment where we are in, where some are in person, some are remote, some are hybrid, it's a mix, right? How can you what have you experienced as a result of the pandemic, and how have people been able to implement this best friend at work in a remote environment?
So for us, we are remote on Mondays and then in office the rest of the week because we have to be a little bit more available for our kiddos. However, before we were in office, I think it's the constant conversation. You can't, introduce something and then take it back by not having it brought up at, every staff meeting, making sure that we're having that level of engagement. There's also specific questions you ask around, have you established a best friend at work? And then managers then can ask follow-up questions. Well, what are you looking for when you're looking for a best friend at work? So they can help that staff person maybe, identify who that person is. And so I think that for us, it's, every staff meeting that we're having a conversation about it. My managers are following up with their staff teams, asking, what is it? Do you need anything else? How can I help you? But to me, what's important is when you hear that feedback and people are asking for things, that you need to immediately follow up and give some type of feedback. You can't put it on a shelf somewhere and say, oh, okay, I'm going to get a task force or put something together and answer that. You need to be right up front with them and continue that conversation and move it forward quickly.
And it needs to happen fast. You're right, quickly. I want to share with you some of the comments that we have coming in. Thank you, audience. We appreciate this. Having those conversations about how people would like to receive feedback is key. 100%. That's awesome, because everybody's not the same. We can't treat everybody the same, and everybody wants to feel like they belong. So that's awesome. Tanya said she did cookie cutter approaches, right? There, Tanya, you're full of resources. Thank you. We can't treat people all the same. People have different needs and expectations. Let's see. Lisa says, making sure you've created a safe environment for your team to feel comfortable expressing this honestly, right? We can't create an environment where people feel like they can't give feedback. And then what that does, I think, is make people receptive to it, because you're givers and you're receivers, right? And it works both ways. And then we've got some really good comments here. Kindness includes giving information people need to know what now they want to hear, right? Yeah. Can I comment on that really quick? I just saw something out the other day that talked about the difference between kindness and nice. Nice is you're going to say nice things, but you're going to hold back. Kindness is I'm not going to hold back, because my commitment is to help you become your best you. So right on that. And then Terry said the golden rule and the platinum rule are helpful in delivering both good and not so good information. Exactly. I love it. Let's see. This is a one, Cassandra. It'd be nice to discuss about co-responsibility and burnout. Okay, effective professional comes with some baggage, taking in too much, not setting boundaries, but the employer also comes with part of the responsibility. Okay, I love it. Okay, these are such good comments. Connie, I am going to ask you to, from that question, help us move forward on some tips and tools for leaders, because that question it connected very well to what we want to talk about next. So what would you say some tips and tools are for leaders that you advise? And then what makes you so happy that not only do you recommend it, you get feedback later that they tried it, they did it, and it worked. So what are your thoughts on that?
So in terms of thinking about just this essential question about burnout itself, I think a really important point to make is that if burnout is brought up as a potential issue that an individual might be facing on our teams, there's one really, really powerful strategy that I can share, which is high value for leaders in many situations. But if someone is coming to us as a leader and saying, hey, I really feel like I'm overwhelmed, I'm feeling burnout, I'm feeling disconnected from the work that I'm doing. As managers, we're programmed to have the solution, to have an answer, to have a way forward.
Yeah.
Right. And in this case, the best response is actually not to offer a solution, but it's in fact to ask the question. A lot of Gloria was talking about asking questions and the power in asking the question and finding out, what are you looking for in a best friend, right? So I think if there's one really great universal takeaway, right, is to really lean into asking questions, right?
Yeah.
So someone is sharing, I'm feeling overwhelmed, the workload doesn't feel manageable, I'm feeling there's problems that aren't getting solved. Is asking questions, right?
Yeah.
Tell me, can you, or I love this one. Tell me more about that. It's not really, but it's a
100%.
simple opening leading statement that invites more information. And inviting that information, that input from our team members or our colleagues, to, as Gloria pointed out, to really get to what is unique to that particular situation. To take a nod to the comment that was there, that was shared, to, that person's unique background, their particular experience. Maybe they came from an organization where asking for help wasn't okay.
Right.
Toxic work environment where it isn't okay to bring up a problem and you better just figure it out on your own, right? And so they move into a different organization, but that's their history of work experiences. That's what they bring with them, right? So someone in that new organization hearing this expression of frustration or worry, right? If you ask that question, we can maybe tease out and understand what that background is, where they've come from, and maybe I'm assuming it's not okay for me to come and share a problem with you, right? So I would say if there's one really important universal takeaway, it is to lean more heavily into questions. And it's so hard for us as managers and leaders, because we always want to think they're coming to me. And I've worked with a lot of executives who say, I feel like I'm supposed to have the answer. I feel like it's my job to have the plan.
Yeah, exactly.
And burnout is really, a lot of burnout is about feeling out of control.
Right.
So by empowering that person to be part of the solution and share, what the best solution looks like from their perspective, that is adding to the solution itself, which is to empower them.
Exactly. And you know what, Connie, a couple things you said that I want to just accent. One, you talked about open-ended questions, and the open-ended questions are the questions to ask. Tell me more about that. What in particular? Like, what the open-ended questions? What, who, when, where, why, and how, right? Instead of, are you clear on this? Do you understand? Right. Yeah. Right.
All you need to do is.
Right. Yeah. and we're so fast. A lot of times I'll hear leaders say, well, I don't know what they were upset about. They didn't have anything to be upset about. Well, but they were upset. So how about we find out, what are you upset about, instead of saying you don't need to be upset, right? And that has to do with empathy too, right? Which is a whole nother conversation, right? But asking the questions, in particular, as you discussed, the open-ended questions, tell me more about that. That's so important to help people talk, because when they talk, they express themselves, they feel cared about, and people want to feel cared for. And interesting to think about this too is the multiple generations that we have. Gloria, I can imagine you have multiple generations there in your organization, and right, yeah. And what do you have? All four? Do you have all four? Baby boomers? Yes. Yeah, all four. And so one of the things that I find interesting, and apparently the Gen Zers, they really want to be, they want proof that they're cared for, right? And so we have to understand that. And what does that mean? And kind of to the point that you said earlier, some people have different things that they need. Let me show a comment here. Managers are people too. And right. Amen, Tanya, right? And are allowed to be human, who are not omnipotent and make mistakes. Yeah, exactly.
I think what's key based on that comment is, being about transparent as a leader. I think it's important to, we always say lead by example, but lead in showing that you're human, and maybe you don't know the best way to handle that. And I think that we need to be very reflective with our managers in showing that, and have them help you as well. And all of us lean in a little bit because of everything that's been going on, because it's just a different world.
It's a different world, and that's about vulnerability, isn't it? I mean, I love some Brene Brown, right? And she has taught us that vulnerability is a strength. And so when we say, I screwed up, I don't know, right? I mean, that's helping others understand, okay, so I'm okay saying that too, right? And it does make you human, doesn't it? I mean, it really does. It makes you human, and it makes people understand that we the phrase that I heard a lot, right, in 2020, we're all in this together. I mean, we really are all in this together, aren't we? We really are. And so I want to carry on too with some other tips and tools for individuals, right? So we talked about leaders. And Gloria, I know you have some things that you do and you recommend. Um, oh yeah, let me just see here. Tanya takes courage, right? Tanya, it takes courage, demonstrates bravery, and is a strength. 100%. We are on the same page. And you know what? I mean, and honestly, I kind of had to learn that the hard way. I mean, when I was a new manager, I thought I had to have all the answers, and I learned very quickly I didn't. And so, we have to be vulnerable. So thank you for that comment too. So Gloria, and then Connie, and then gosh, we're almost out of time too, so we'll wrap it up in a few minutes. But what tips and tools do we have for individuals? Because we did tell our audience we're going to provide tips and tools. I think we've had a robust conversation, and clearly we could use a lot more time to talk about this subject for sure. But what other tips and tools do you have for individual contributors? We've talked about leaders, individual contributors as well, and then Connie, you might have some as well.
I think for individuals, I think really it's being able to have that conversation and to say, look around and listen to other things that people are doing to say, how can I have that conversation with my supervisor, with my husband, with my children, because there's so many outside influences that are impacting us now. I was amazed how many people got upset and worked up over their dog barking on a Zoom call. And I felt that was just really natural. And that's humanizing all of us. And so being okay with things not going perfect. And I think that, everyone as individuals need to seek out what brings them joy and what helps, relieve their burnout or their stress, and then, continue to apply it, but then also let people know that those things that help them. So, if you're having a stressful day and just go and say, I'm having a little bit of stressful day and I just want to let you guys know that, just to be ahead of it so people can provide support that are around you. I think it's key to just keep that communication with all the individuals that impact your life open.
That means when you say that, you're being vulnerable for sure, right? I mean, something might have happened, you got a phone call, whatever, but today's just not the best day, right? And it sets the stage for people. We talked about the golden rule and the platinum rule for how to treat people, right? I mean, when we understand how people want to be treated, that might be different than how we want to be treated, and we have to understand what matters to them. One of the things that I really try and pay attention to, and I know you do too, and everybody who's here does too, and that is recognizing how we can show people that we do care about them, right? I mean, and when we show people that we care about them, that means when they come in and tell us it's not a good day, we respect that, right? And Gloria, I know you said you take time to make sure you breathe throughout the day, and and I have to remind myself to do that. So we have about 2 more minutes. So any other tips that you? Oh, Tanya said meditation is self-care, right? Exactly.
Yes. Meditation, sleep. I think, is key.
And here's Tanya: sleep, right? No, can't work until 3 a.m. and be present and ready to go at 8 a.m, right? Physical exercise, healthy eating, connecting with nature. All of those are so important. And that is what's going to help us to not stress out, to reduce our burnout and to relieve stress. Connie, do you have any last minute comments?
I think the one piece to add to that would be to encourage folks to get a little bit reflective about yourself. And find that, for me, sleep is huge. And sunshine. I can go through lunch without eating. I can eat that's okay. Some people, I have to have lunch on time, right? So I think I would encourage folks to get a little more reflective about what really is important to you, what really does fill your cup, really importantly, and what are the key sources of stressors, so that you can communicate those things, and you can try as best as you can to try to plan, around those things, to try to let the best you in your day.
We have to advocate for ourselves, in other words, too, right? We have to speak up. If we feel as though we need to say something, then, I hope that when you're finished with this call today, that it just reinforces the value and the ability that we have to speak up for ourselves and to take time out for ourselves. What we have showing here now is our contact information. I want to thank the audience again for joining us today. Phenomenal comments that you gave. So thank you so much for your comments and your participation. And so we would love for you to reach out to us. Excuse me. So our information is here, how to reach out to Gloria, how to reach out to Connie, and how to reach out to myself. We'd love to carry on the conversation. Reach out to us on LinkedIn or get in touch with us on the information here. Connie and Gloria, our time is up. So I just want to thank you so much for your contribution. Thank you for saying yes. Thank you for all the value that you've been able to add. And we want for you, audience, to have left with some tools and tips so that you can do your best to create environments where people want to be in, where they feel safe, where they feel loyal, and where they'll stay. And with that, we thank you and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much. I'll end it now. Thank you.
Thank you.